My phone buzzed again, rattling on the nightstand. It had been going off all night, but at 2 a.m., I finally gave in. I squinted at the screen. More texts from Ryan, my best friend, and Marcus, the guy I was seeing, both blowing up my phone with pictures and videos from the club. Ryan was dancing like a maniac, and Marcus was right there beside him. Ryan's texts were loud and obnoxious. "Where you at?" While Marcus casually asked if I was coming. Coming? Why the hell would I want to join them? I shoved the phone under my pillow, cursing. The two of them hanging out without me, like it wasn't weird? I'd wanted to go to the club tonight, but watching them buddy up was too much. I got up, stepped out onto the balcony, and let the cold air hit my face. Here's the thing. I'm not saying I had the worst luck dating. But if there's a world record for most dates sabotaged by your best friend, I'd be a serious contender. And I know why. I've had a crush on Ryan, my childhood best friend, for years. We never crossed that line, and I made my peace with it. I'd say the supportive friend, no problem. But explain this. Why does Ryan always show up and ruin things when I'm seeing someone new? Coincidence? Or something else? About 2 months back, I was sitting at this trendy little bar with Marcus, the guy I'd been texting for weeks. Things were going great. For once. We were actually kinda vibing, you know? The conversation was flowing, and I even managed to make him laugh a couple times, which, trust me, is a rarity when I'm under pressure. And then, like clockwork, who walks in? Ryan. Freaking Ryan. I spot him before Marcus does, of course. He's hard to miss with that salesman grin of his and "I just woke up this perfect" hair. And what does Ryan do? He slides right up to us at the bar, greets me like he hasn't seen me in years. We literally hung out the night before. And then proceeded to charm the pants off Marcus. Not literally, thank God. That would have been a whole different issue. But you get the idea. Suddenly, I'm sitting there, watching my date have the time of his life with Ryan. The three of us are laughing, sure, but now it's like I'm the third wheel of my own damn date. I wish I could even say that Ryan eventually left, but no, he stayed for the entire night. I couldn't even get mad because he's Ryan. Everyone loves Ryan. Even Marcus started asking if he wanted to hang out sometime again, with both of us. Yeah, so that's how my date with Marcus ended, with him getting Ryan's number. Ryan's, not mine. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell happened? After the Marcus fiasco, which is what I now call it, I couldn't help but notice the pattern. It wasn't just Marcus. This was like the 5th time something like this happened. It's like Ryan had this radar that activated the second I'm actually enjoying myself with someone new. Honestly, I've been dealing with this since we were little. Ryan and I, we go way back. We were those inseparable kids who did everything together. And even back then, Ryan was the one everyone noticed. You know the type, the kid who could walk into a room and make friends in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, I was just there, the sidekick, the quiet one standing off to the side while Ryan basked in the attention. And I was fine with that. At first, anyway. I mean, it's not like I didn't have friends or anything, but I always felt like I was playing second fiddle to him. And yeah, I've had this stupid crush on him for years, which didn't help. I figured I grew out of it, but here I was, still crushing on the guy who was actively ruining my love life. Classic. The way I saw it, something had to be done. If not, chances were pretty high that I'd end up lonely and by myself in an empty apartment with cats if I kept up unchecked. The answer to my prayers and the solution to our little Ryan problem dropped in my lap in the form of a long-awaited promotion. It was the kind of promotion one wouldn't really expect to get despite taking tangible time out to fill several stacks of paperwork pertaining to it. "It's just a formality," Ricky, my supervisor, had said. "When you've put considerable years into the company, they make us fill these out, but no one ever gets it." I wish you could have seen the look on Ricky's face when he handed me the approval letter from the higher ups. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. The thing is, it wasn't just some desk upgrade either. This was the real deal. Better pay, more responsibility, and a relocation to another city. A whole different state, actually. I should have been ecstatic. And I was, don't get me wrong. But as soon as I got the letter, there was this voice in the back of my head saying, "What about Ryan?" Stupid, right? I mean, I shouldn't be making career decisions based on some guy who doesn't even realize I've been crushing on him since puberty. But still, the thought lingered. I was excited to tell him, though, because deep down, I wanted to see his reaction. Maybe, just maybe, it would give me some clarity on where we stood, whether I'd be reading too much into things or if he actually gave a damn about me leaving. So, a couple days later, we're grabbing burgers like we always do. It's our spot, a hole-in-the-wall place we've been going to for years. I figure, perfect timing to casually slip in the news. "Hey, so I got this offer at work," I said between bites. "Pretty big deal. It means moving to Chicago though." I tried to gauge his reaction, and for a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Panic maybe? But then he shrugged all casual. "Chicago, huh? That's cool." Cool? That's it? That's all he's got? "Yeah," I continued, trying to keep my voice light. "It's a huge step, you know, but I'd have to move pretty soon if I take it." Ryan nodded, but the conversation pretty much ended there. He didn't ask any follow-up questions, and didn't seem particularly interested at all, actually. Instead, he pivoted to some story about his cousin's wedding coming up. I wanted to scream. Dude, I'm talking about leaving the state here, not switching sandwich orders. I thought maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe he was trying to play it cool. But the more I mulled it over, the more it bugged me. It felt like every time I tried to bring it up again, Ryan brushed it off or changed the subject, like he didn't want to acknowledge that I might actually be leaving. And that got me wondering, was he uncomfortable with the idea of me moving away because he didn't want me to go? Or was he just being emotionally distant, like always? The more I thought about it, the more conflicted I felt. I mean, this promotion was a huge deal for me, but then I'd picture leaving, and it wasn't the job I'd be missing, or even the city. It was him. What if I left and missed my chance to figure out whatever the hell was going on between us? What if this weird game we've been playing for years just ended? It was like the universe was putting this huge move on sign in front of me, but I kept staring back at Ryan, waiting for some kind of clue that would probably never come. 3 days after the awkward burger conversation, I decided to put my theory to the test. I got in a match on a dating app. Some guy named Brendan. Seemed cool, and honestly, after the Marcus fiasco, I figured why not try again. But here's the thing, I wasn't just excited about the date. I wanted to see how Ryan would react. I know, it's stupid, but my curiosity had reached new levels. Was I overthinking this whole sabotage thing? Or was Ryan really playing some strange game with my love life? We were headed to the grocery store, our usual Saturday afternoon routine, so I figured I'd drop the news then. Casual, like I wasn't analyzing his every move. As we wandered through the aisles, I played it cool. "Hey, so I met with this guy on the app last night." Ryan didn't even blink. He kept tossing random items into the cart. Cereal, a couple of avocados, some weird artisanal kombucha that he probably wouldn't even drink. "Oh yeah? That's cool," he said, still way too focused on the sparkling water selection. Cool, right. There's that word again. At the moment, I started thinking maybe I'd been imagining all of it, Ryan being weird, jealous, or whatever it was. Perhaps I was just projecting my feelings onto him, seeing things that weren't there. Maybe he was just my best friend and didn't care one way or the other about my dating life. But then, as we were heading out, I mentioned, "Yeah, we're supposed to meet up later tonight." That's when it happened. I wasn't imagining it this time. I saw the way Ryan's whole body language changed, the way he suddenly stopped scanning the store for impulse buys and perked up like I just dropped a bomb on him. "What's up?" I asked, keeping my tone light, even though my brain was going, "Aha, gotcha." Ryan shifted, patting his pockets like he was suddenly on some top secret mission. I think I left my keys back at the self-checkout. You go on ahead without me. I'll grab them and meet you back home." I stood there, dumbfounded. Self-checkout? We hadn't even been near the self-checkout. We'd been in the express lane the whole time. Alright, I said, watching him do a complete 180, belining it back into the store like his life depended on it. I could have called him out right there, but part of me wanted to see how this would play out, so I shrugged it off, hailed a taxi, and left. But in my head, I was definitely spiraling. That switch had been too sudden, too dramatic. There was no way he was chasing after keys, and I couldn't help but wonder, was he about to sabotage me again? That evening, I showed up at Joe's, this cozy pasta place. I'd been to it a couple times before, ready for my date with Brendan. I hadn't told Ryan what time I'd be meeting up with him, so part of me was curious, really curious about what he might pull. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he wasn't going to show up at all, and all this had been in my head. I arrived a little early and grabbed a table near the window. As I settled into my seat, I noticed someone in a hoodie sitting in the far corner of the restaurant. I didn't think much of it at first. It's a pasta place, not exactly a high-stakes environment, right? Brendan arrived a few minutes later, and honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. He was one of those people you just click with instantly. An expert conversationalist, witty, funny, easy to talk to. I found myself laughing at his jokes and feeling pretty good about how things were going. After the chaos of my last few dates, this felt like it was finally heading in the right direction. An hour into our meal, and I was ready to admit it. Maybe I'd been right about Ryan after all. Maybe this was just a fluke, and I'd be reading too much into his sudden appearance on my dates. Brendan and I were really hitting it off, and I was starting to relax. For once, things were going smoothly. And then, of course, the universe decided to slap me in my face. Out of nowhere, there was this commotion coming from the far corner of the restaurant. The hooded figure I'd spotted earlier was making a scene, arguing with the waiter about some mix-up with his order. "It's not what I ordered," the hooded guy insisted, his voice rising. The waiter, clearly done with this guy's nonsense, stood his ground. "Sir, this is exactly what you ordered." The back and forth escalated quickly, and the entire restaurant started turning their heads, drawn in by the growing ruckus. I tried to ignore it at first, tried to stay focused on Brendan, but something about the way the hooded guy's voice sounded was familiar. I stood up, telling Brendan I'd be right back, and made my way over to the argument. As I got closer, my stomach dropped. The hoodie didn't hide much at this point. There was no mistaking it. The random stranger in the corner, causing a scene, was Ryan. Of course it was Ryan. He looked up, and the second we locked eyes, his face lit up like he just won the lottery. "Leo, you're here!" he exclaimed, like this was the most natural thing in the world. I felt my face lose color, and I had to take a deep breath to calm down. "Ryan," I said slowly, trying not to let my frustration leak. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm so glad you're here to back me up," he continued, launching into an explanation of how the waiter got his order wrong. "I specifically asked for pesto, and they gave me Alfredo. Can you believe that?" The waiter looked at me with that "please help" expression, and I just sighed. It's fine, I told the waiter. Just give him what he wants. I'll pay for the extra order. The waiter, clearly relieved, nodded and left. Ryan, completely oblivious to how close I was losing it, grinned at me. Fancy meeting you here, huh? Fancy? I stared at him, absolutely dumbfounded. Ryan, I told you I was coming here for a date. Ryan furrowed his brow like this was all news to him. Oh, you sure? Must have slipped my mind. Sure, right. I didn't even have the energy to argue. I turned to walk back to my table, hoping he'd take the hint, but instead, Ryan trailed after me, casually asking, So, where's your date? I'd love to say hi. At this point, I was too tired to even respond. I just kept walking back to Brendan, who, bless him, was waiting patiently at the table, probably wondering what the hell was going on. Before I could even sit down, Ryan pulled up a chair and plopped himself right next to Brendan, like this was a group dinner or something. Brendan shot me a confused look, but Ryan was already diving into the story of his Alfredo disaster, recounting the entire ordeal like it was some epic tale of survival. I just sat there, sighing in resignation. Ryan was at it again. The end of the dinner couldn't come fast enough. Unlike all the others before him, Brendan wasn't mesmerized by Ryan's charm, and let me tell you, that made things even more awkward. He wasn't rude about it. He was polite and smiled when necessary, but you could feel the tension at the table. Brendan wasn't buying whatever Ryan was selling, and Ryan, being the stubborn guy he is, didn't take the hint. He kept talking, kept pushing the conversation, acting like this was a fun night out with pals, completely ignoring the fact that this was supposed to be a date. Brendan's polite laughter started fading fast, his questions getting shorter, his patience wearing thin. After a while, Brendan glanced at his watch, the classic escape move. I could see the look of "I've had enough" written all over his face. Finally, he set down his napkin and stood up. Well, this has been interesting, he said, forcing a smile. But I've got an early morning tomorrow, so I should head out. I couldn't blame him. Honestly, I was surprised he lasted as long as he did. I got up to walk him out, knowing Ryan wouldn't miss a chance to tag along. Sure enough, Ryan was a few paces behind us as we made our way out of the restaurant. Brendan glanced over his shoulder at him, clearly puzzled by the whole dynamic, but didn't say anything. As we stepped outside, Brendan turned to me and gave me an apologetic smile. Well, Leo, good luck with whatever that was, he said, gesturing loosely in Ryan's direction. I cringed, embarrassed that this had become the norm for my dates. Brendan gave me a quick, half-hearted hug and then hopped into the waiting taxi, leaving me there with Ryan hovering nearby. I watched the taxi pull away, my mind racing, trying to figure out how to start the conversation I've been avoiding for way too long. But after this latest sabotage, I couldn't keep pretending this was all just a series of coincidences. I had to confront him. I turned to Ryan, and for the first time in a while, I wasn't joking, laughing, or pretending everything was fine. Ryan, I said, voice steady but calm, why do you keep doing this? Ryan blinked, taken aback. Doing what? He flashed that easy grin, the one he always used to deflect uncomfortable conversations. I mean, come on, Leo. It's not my fault I'm having a great time. Ryan, I said, shaking my head, I'm serious. Why do you keep interfering with my love life? Every time I go on a date, you show up. You make it impossible for me to just move on. He laughed, brushing it off like it was a joke. Whoa, hold on. I'm not interfering, I cut him off, frustration spilling over. You are interfering. Marcus, Eric, Brendan, every time you show up. This isn't bad timing, Ryan. It's like you're sabotaging me. Why? I cut him off, frustration spilling over. You are interfering. Marcus, Eric, Brendan, every time you show up. This isn't bad timing, Ryan. It's like you're sabotaging me. Why? Ryan's grin faded. He shifted, uncomfortable. I wasn't trying to mess things up. I was just keeping you company. On my dates? I scoffed. That's not normal, Ryan. He opened his mouth to make a joke but stopped when he saw my face. He realized I wasn't letting this slide. There was a long pause, then quieter, more vulnerable, he said, I wasn't trying to sabotage anything. You just what? He sighed, looking away. I guess I'm just scared. Scared of what? Of losing you. Of you moving on without me. I don't know if it's romantic or whatever, but every time you date someone new, it feels like I'm about to lose my best friend, and I don't know how to handle that. I stared at him, thrown. Ryan, always so confident, was afraid of being left behind? You don't have to lose me just because I'm dating, I said softly, trying to make sense of it. It's not that simple, Leo. You're the one constant thing in my life. I can't picture things without you in them. So by ruining my dates, you're, what, keeping me around? He shrugged, looking uncertain. Maybe. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. For the first time in years, I didn't know what to say. Ryan wasn't just messing with me, he was scared of change, and somehow that hit harder than I expected. Ryan's confession was a gut punch. I thought he either denied everything or admitted to jealousy, but instead he was just lost. He didn't say he loved me. He wasn't even sure if the feelings were romantic. He just didn't want me to move on. And now, I didn't know what to think either. I'd spent so long wanting him. Was it because I truly love him? Or because I couldn't have him? I've had feelings for you for years, I admitted, my voice quieter. But now, I don't even know if those feelings were real or if it was just the thrill of wanting what I couldn't have. Ryan's eyes softened. You don't mean that. Don't I? I shot back. Every time I try to move on, you derail it. And now, you don't even know if you want me like that. You're just scared of losing me? He flinched. The silence between us, thick and unresolved. I wanted to be mad, but mostly I just felt lost. Neither of us knew how to navigate this. Leo, I don't want to lose you. That's the thing I'm sure of. I swallowed hard. Yeah, me too. 2 days later, things had sort of settled between us, but it was weird, like really weird. We'd gone from years of unspoken tension to having to deal with the elephant in the room, our feelings for each other. Neither of us wanted to bring it up again, but it was there, looming over every conversation, every glance. And I noticed something different about Ryan. He mellowed out like he was walking on eggshells around me. He was being extra careful, which for Ryan was saying something. That night, he made dinner. Out of nowhere, said it was his way of apologizing for all the dates he ruined, and I'll admit, I was surprised. I couldn't remember the last time Ryan cooked, but here he was, setting the table and plating the food like a damn chef. As we ate, there was this silence. Not awkward, but the kind of silence where both people are thinking way too much. I couldn't take it anymore, so I broke it. This was really good, by the way, I said, gesturing at the plate in front of me. Your cooking reminds me of your mom's Sunday specials. Ryan smiled, a small, genuine one. Yeah, it's actually one of her recipes. I nodded, chewing slowly, waiting for him to say something else. I could feel him working up to something, and I wasn't wrong. He put down his fork and looked at me, his face a little more serious now. "Look, Leo," he started. "I've been thinking a lot since, everything. And I just want to apologize again, for real this time. Nothing I did justifies how I acted. I was selfish, and I couldn't have interfered in your life like that." I paused for a second, then shrugged, trying to keep the mood light. "Well, at least now it won't be happening anymore, right?" He laughed softly, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. There was still something happening between us, and I knew he wasn't done yet. And sure enough, he shifted in his seat, like he was working up to the courage to something bigger. "Actually," Ryan said, meeting my eyes, "I was thinking maybe I could make up for it. Properly." I raised an eyebrow. "Properly?" "Yeah," he said, looking almost nervous, which was so unlike him. "I was wondering if you want to go out, like on an actual date, tomorrow night." I blinked, a little caught off guard. After everything, it seemed like such a simple request, but it felt huge. I wasn't sure how to respond right away, but there was a part of me that couldn't help but feel curious. "Are you serious?" I asked, though I wasn't entirely sure why I was surprised. Maybe because after years of mixed signals and sabotaged dates, the idea of actually dating felt unreal. Ryan nodded. "Yeah, I am. I mean, if you're not ready, I get it, but I'd like to try. For real this time. No games, no sabotage." I looked at him for a moment, trying to gauge if he was really serious. And the thing was, he was. This wasn't some half-baked plan or a flirty comment he was throwing out of the mess with me. He meant it. I put my fork down, my mind racing. This was it, the moment I'd been thinking about for years. But now that it was right in front of me, I wasn't sure what to do. But then, after everything, I realized something. I wanted to give it a shot, to see what might happen. "Okay," I said, smiling softly. "Let's do it. Tomorrow night." Ryan's face lit up, and for the first time in days, it felt like we were finally on the same page. I woke up feeling more excited than I had in, probably years. The idea of an actual date with Ryan, it felt surreal, like everything was falling into place. For once, things didn't seem so complicated. But of course, life has a way of messing with you when you least expect it. That morning, just as I was about to head out and get things ready for later, my phone rang. It was Ricky, my supervisor. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me I should. Big mistake. "Hey Leo," Ricky said, his voice annoyingly upbeat. "Just wanted to remind you, the higher-ups need your decision on the promotion by the end of today." And just like that, the excitement drained out of me. I'd forgotten all about the promotion, the offer to relocate to Chicago, the dream opportunity I've been working towards for years. I put it on the back burner after everything with Ryan, but now I had no choice but to face it. I mumbled something to Ricky about needing time to think and hung up. Suddenly, the date with Ryan didn't feel so carefree. My mind kept bouncing between two impossible choices: stay for Ryan or leave for my career. I tried to shake it off, but the more I thought about it, the more conflicted I felt. Later that evening, I showed up at the spot where Ryan and I had agreed to meet. It was this little park near the water, somewhere quiet where we could finally talk without distractions. But as soon as I saw Ryan standing there, waiting for me with that familiar grin, I felt a sinking pit in my stomach. He waved me over like usual carefree self, but I couldn't muster the same energy. I tried, though. I tried to act like I wasn't caught between two worlds, but Ryan being Ryan, picked up on it right away. "You okay?" he asked, his smile fading a bit as I walked up to him. "You seem off." I let out a sigh, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, I guess. I got a call this morning about the promotion." I paused, watching as his expression changed. "They need my decision by the end of the day." Ryan didn't say anything at first, just looked at me, waiting for more. "I'm gonna take it," I said, the words heavy as they left my mouth. "I've worked for this for so long and I don't know, maybe some space would be good for us to figure things out, you know?" I could see the hurt flash across Ryan's face for a second before he quickly covered it up. He nodded, stuffing his hands into his pockets. "Yeah, I get it," he said quietly. "You've been working towards this for years. You deserve it." It was the right thing to say, but I could tell it wasn't what he wanted to say, and that made it even harder. "I just think, I don't know," I continued, my voice faltering. "Maybe the distance will help. Maybe we'll both figure out what we want without all the history getting in the way." Ryan didn't meet my eyes. He stared out at the water instead, like it held all the answers neither of us had. "Yeah, maybe," he finally said, though I could tell he didn't believe it. We stood there in silence for what felt like forever, both of us grappling with the weight of everything unsaid. I had hoped for an easy solution, a clear answer to what was happening between us, but instead, it felt like I was walking away for something unfinished, something I didn't even fully understand yet. Ryan turned to me, his expression unreadable. "Look, Leo," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not going to stand in your way. I want you to take the promotion. Do what's best for you, but..." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Just don't shut me out, okay? Even if you're in Chicago, don't disappear." I nodded, even though part of me felt like I already was. "I won't." I didn't see Ryan for the rest of the week. He must have been really bummed out, dealing with things in his own way. It broke my heart, honestly, knowing that today was the day I'd be leaving, and we hadn't talked since that night at the park. But I had to rewind myself over and over. It was for the best. As much as I wanted to stay, it would set my career back, and I worked too hard to let that happen. Still, leaving without resolving everything with Ryan, it hurt more than I thought it would. I was packing up the last of my stuff, mentally preparing to leave. I kept glancing at the clock, counting down the hours, wishing, hoping that maybe I'd hear from him before I left. But before I zipped up my suitcase, there was still no sign of Ryan. I guess this was how it had to be. He needed space. I needed to move on. Just as I was about to walk out the door, there was a knock. My heart jumped, and I didn't have to open it to know who it was. Sure enough, there he was, Ryan, standing in the doorway, looking a little disheveled, but the same Ryan I know for years. He didn't say anything right away, just stood there for a moment, like he was trying to decide what to do next. "Hey," he finally said, breaking the silence. "Hey," I replied, trying to play it cool, even though my heart was doing somersaults. Ryan shifted on his feet, stuffing his hands in his pockets. I just wanted to wish you good luck. You know, with the new job, Chicago and all." I nodded, forcing a small smile. "Thanks. I appreciate it." For a moment, it felt like that was it. Like this is how we were going to leave things. But something in me snapped. The idea of walking away, of leaving it all to chance, I couldn't do it. Not this time. "Ryan, wait," I said, before he could turn to leave. He stopped, raising an eyebrow. Yeah? I took a deep breath, knowing that what I was about to say could change everything. Come with me. Ryan blinked, clearly caught off guard. What? Come with me, I repeated, my voice steadier this time. I know we said we need space, but I don't think leaving things up to chance is a good idea. What if this space does more harm than good? What if we drift apart and we never figure out what this is between us? He stared at me, processing what I was saying. Leo, I thought we agreed that... I know what we agreed, I cut in. But hear me out. If we stay close to each other, we'll have a real chance. We'll figure out whatever this is between us, without all the distance and uncertainty. Plus, it's a fresh start, a new city, a chance for us to start over. Ryan's eyes searched mine, like he was trying to find the catch. For a second, I thought maybe I pushed too hard, that he was going to say no. But then slowly, his expression softened, and he let out a small laugh. You know, I can't believe I'm saying this, he said, but I was kind of thinking the same thing. I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? He shrugged, a little sheepish. Yeah, I mean, I can't leave immediately. I need a week or so to sort some things out, but I've actually been looking at jobs in Chicago. I may or may have not have an interview lined up. I couldn't help but smile. You've been looking at jobs? He nodded, grinning. What can I say? I'm full of surprises. I let out a laugh, shaking my head. Of course you are. Ryan stepped forward, his expression more serious now. Look, Leo, I want this to work. I don't know what this thing between us is exactly, but I know I don't want to lose it. I just need a week to get myself in order, and then I'll join you, for real this time. I could feel the tension lifting, the weight between us finally easing up. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a neatly wrapped ending, but it was something. Deal, I said, holding out my hand like we were sealing the pact. Ryan laughed and shook my hand, pulling me in for a quick, awkward hug. I'll see you in Chicago. Yeah, I said, feeling more hopeful than I had in days. I'll see you soon. So here's the thing. Moving to Chicago with the idea of Ryan joining me right away? Yeah, it didn't go exactly as smoothly as we planned. Ryan couldn't come out until about 2 weeks later because of some complications with his old job. And even when he did get here, his office and apartment were both on the other side of the city. I won't lie, at first, I thought that distance was going to be a problem. I mean, we lived right next door to each other for years. Our whole friendship was built around that closeness. Being able to knock on each other's doors at any time. So the idea of not being in each other's backyards anymore, it threw me off. But it turns out that little bit of space was exactly what we needed. With distance between us, I stopped seeing Ryan as just my best friend or my next door neighbor. It gave us time to figure out what we really wanted from each other without the constant history hanging over our heads. We started actually dating, like real dates. Dinner, movies, hanging out at each other's places. It was weird at first, trying to switch gears from what we've been before. But it didn't take long for everything to just click. Sure, there were moments where it fell off, like we were still trying to figure out how to balance our old dynamic with this new romantic one. But after a few months of off and on dating, we finally got the hang of it. And then one night, sitting on his couch with takeout between us, Ryan just looked at me and asked, So, you want to make this official? I didn't even hesitate. And just like that, we were official. It wasn't perfect. It never is. But for the first time in a long time, things felt right. The end. Have you ever had a crush on a close friend? How did you deal with it? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.